Hello. I am Bex Baker, your host. I am an adopter of two. I discovered very early on in our first adoption that there were no Christian podcasts set within the UK context discussing all things fostering and adoption. On this podcast, we are going to talk to people across the 4 nations of the UK about their stories in relation to all things fostering, adoption, kinship care, supported lodgings, all things vulnerable children. Every story is unique and beautiful as to how God is working in the care system across the UK. If you would like to share your story, please contact us via email or DM us on Instagram. This is Families Made Differently. Hello and welcome to Families Made Differently. This is really exciting because this is our 1-year anniversary and we are back for our anniversary special, and I thought it would be great to bring back the OG.
Yeah, we did. The reality is it took a year because she was trying to go through everybody else first before she came around, and she just had 11 other people, and then I was just number 12 on the list. She couldn't think of anyone else to put in before me again.
Lies.
A year though, that's really cool.
I know, it is cool. And you have been begging to come back on.
Well,
You've been like, have me back.
I'm not sure it was necessary to do me dirty quite like that. Not sure that was completely
you were like,
needed.
I have the
Not
most
wrong.
views, so have me back.
Yeah, not right. If you look at the number of listens, the number 1 was obviously the most listened to episode. So
You're right.
I thought
Episode 1 happens to be
clearly
the
you and me are
most
just a magic
listened to
formula.
episode. I mean, we are.
I'd say, yeah, you dare deny that.
I would never deny that
Exactly.
we're magic.
And here we are, 1 year later, still married, still on this podcast. Well, I'm back on it. You're still on it. You've not replaced yourself yet.
Yeah, I don't intend to replace myself unless someone better comes along. But at the moment, this is.
That'd be very sacrificial of you.
I mean,
is that something you're openly keeping an eye out for?
What? Scouting
as
for
you,
talent.
As you interview people,
to take over.
You're trying to find a new presenter so you can move into a bit more of an editorial role.
No, I quite enjoy the interviews. They're probably my favorite part over the editing.
This is gold.
Yeah, this is really not relevant to.
I think you should keep this up. This is really interesting.
What?
Just hearing about what you enjoy about it.
Okay, well, moving on. When episode 1 was released, we were days away from the adoption of our daughter, but that is not what we said in episode 1. We only spoke about our son's adoption. We're almost a year on from having adopted our daughter.
Oh my goodness.
So I was wondering.
That's mental.
Yeah, I know, it's gone so fast. I was wondering, what has been your favourite memory in the past year since we adopted Nevaeh?
What's been my favourite memory? So I think one of my favourite memories, it's kind of got repeated a couple of times, was actually going over on the ferry in the car with the kids, and then kind of seeing that for the first time and going on, because I remember doing that with me and with my parents and my family would go over to France on the ferry, and it was just special because we were obviously heading over to Ireland, and the bit in particular that I did really love was the one time where we got to park right at the front of the ferry, which was amazing. I really enjoyed that anyway, because you just see this big thing just start to open with beep, beep, beep. But more importantly, Toyan, and I don't think Nevaeh particularly cared actually, but Toyan really loved that part.
That's a great Nevaeh memory.
Yeah, that's a really good Nevaeh memory. But I was thinking about the time on the boat and like the playing bit, but walking around on the outside, like all those experiences that they would have had, and having that with them was really special, Yeah.
My favourite memory so far is when. So usually she totally gets really upset when anyone leaves, especially me, unfortunately. The one day my brother was over, and honestly she did not take to him when she moved in. They were playing, her and Toyan and my brother, and I was like, I need to go get Jack, go get you from work, and obviously I said dad to them. I was like, I'm going, bye. And she ran to the gate, and I literally thought it was because she was going to be so upset that she wasn't coming. And I was like, I can take her. It's not really a big deal. It was just, I thought they were enjoying playing in the garden, their uncle. And she just came around, flung herself around the gate and just did this big wave with this massive smile. And it just showed me a year on how now she loved her uncle. She did not like him when she moved in, but she loves him now. And
Yeah.
I just love like that growth and that exponential growth that you're just like, the year you can see the years gone by.
And I think that's different, isn't it? It's special, it's unique for adoption, that when you have a birth child, you kind of just expect those relationships to kind of just be solid from the start. As long as the adult puts the effort in, the child will reciprocate and love them back. But it does take the time, and when you see those breakthroughs happen, it does mean just so much more. I do agree, that was a lovely moment. Hearing about that,
Yeah, I was
wasn't
about
there
to
for
say,
that.
not that
That
you
was
were
a
there, I
lovely
was literally
moment.
coming to get you.
Can I have another one then?
Yeah, go on.
Because you looked at me so funny when I didn't speak enough for that first one. But just seeing the two kids growing and playing together.
Oh, yeah.
So currently right now, Toyan is with his grandparents, and the fact that while he's away, he's been wanting to sit in when they've been taken to the shops, he's wanted to sit in the trolley, but a double trolley, so there's space full of air to sit next to him. And when they sit down for dinner, saying like, oh, this is where she would sit at the table, she's not there. Like, actually, they've got such an amazing relationship as brother and sister that even when they're apart, he's still like, oh, like, this is where she would be. That'll change as they get older, but for now, like, that's just lovely.
Yeah, also at the moment they're very much in that cute, like, oh, everyone looks at them when we're like going out, because they like walk holding hands, and everyone is
So
definitely
cute.
looking at them going, oh, they're so cute. I'm like, they're menaces at home.
If only you knew.
If only you knew behind this cuteness. But they are really cute
There was
together.
a whole other side to these children.
Okay, so this is a slightly trickier question.
Oh.
Looking back over the year of Families Made Differently, what has been your favourite story, your favourite moment, your favourite episode so far? Assuming you've listened to them all.
I have listened to them all. I've listened to them all.
I know,
My
I do.
favourite
You vet
story
them all.
so far. I think I really like Jennifer's story.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Like, actually just having that perspective that we don't have of being a kid in a family that decides to adopt. And hearing that and how Jesus really kind of shone through that, and how it's just my new brother and sister.
Yeah.
Actually, that was amazing. The relationship that she was describing with them was just amazing. Because she's got, so she's the oldest, and then a younger brother by birth, and then a younger brother and younger sister, or younger sister, brother, doesn't matter. She was describing as well, like when they would play games, they would do kind of girls versus boys, or they would sometimes do kind of birth versus adopted, and just be completely open about that, and that was fine. And they like embraced it as an identity. That was okay. It didn't break them apart. It wasn't divisive. I really enjoyed that bit. I really enjoyed hearing that one because it was just such an encouraging story. I think there's probably lots of people out there that have kids that would consider fostering or adopting and wondering, how are they going to interact? Is it going to throw things out all apart? Is it all going to fall apart? And actually, here's a story where it hasn't done that. I think that's my favourite one so far.
Yeah. I would say my favourite is probably in the Tamsin interview, hearing about like the churches in Southampton, like completely like, and handing the council the keys of the homes that were opening to become foster families. I'm like, oh, if the church could rally, and the church just rallied around like the needs of the local authorities within like the space of vulnerable children, I'm like, honestly, so many things would be fixed. Like, we complain at government for not fixing stuff and not pouring enough money into like social work or whatever. But in reality, the church could do so much more, and are the church doing enough?
But I mean, you know my opinion on that front.
Well, I do.
Being a pastor, like, the perennial problem is trying to get Christians to be excited about living out their faith and doing their faith, and that's always a bit of a challenge because we all go through seasons. But that's what we long to see, isn't it? People just on fire for Jesus, doing something, stepping out of their comfort zone. And I don't think there is enough stepping out of our comfort zone in the church, but in society.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that you're a year on from the mainstream adoption that we did, how would you compare to someone who doesn't know anything about either mainstream versus early permanence or foster to adopt, and what are the pros and cons of each? I will interject with my own opinions on it.
As you do, as per normal life.
Yes, of course.
Give me opportunity to speak and then just interrupt every now and again with your own opinions.
Yeah.
Yep.
How you get through a Sunday morning is always a surprise to me. Actually, that's not how that happened.
Excuse me, everybody. What Jack said was wrong. So, one of the positives for early permanence is being able to have Toyan since he was a few days old living with us. Building that bond, that relationship so early has made all the difference in the world when it comes to attachment. For him, he has never known anything different, and it is seamless. We've not had any real attachment difficulties because they do attach to you so fast when they're that young, because they need to. They need to know that they're going to be cared for and protected by the person that's looking after them, and so they do. But that means that you have this wonderful, amazing connection with them, and from so early on. Whereas I'm sure there's proper research done on this, but the longer between the placement and how old they are, actually, the harder it is to make that attachment. And we've seen that even with Laverne coming to us like 10 months old, even 10 months just down the line. Just 10 months, but that's 10 months of her life. Her 100% of her life up to that point has been spent with other people, and now it's with us. Felt like it took a long time to overcome some of those hurdles, and I think we still see, don't we, elements of that and throwbacks to that today, and just how she acts. She's just that little bit more hesitant or reticent about stuff sometimes, and
yeah, I always say she's more anxious of our two children. She's like the more anxious one.
Yeah, definitely, and it's hard to know, I guess, if that's a bit of character, but
yeah, it is hard to know if it's personality.
I can't help but attribute it to the fact that there was that loss of attachment and then reattachment to us, and that's got to have a massive impact. So that's a big thing. Having a child at EP does mean you have them really early on. The difference in the certainty of the process, though, goes completely the other way. There is no certainty in EP. We had such a roller coaster going through there, whereas once we were the people being considered for Lavea, that was it. There was no one else. It was just kind of plodding on through, and it was happening. So it felt like just kind of a matter of time, and it felt like it went really fast.
Yeah.
And I couldn't quite believe it, really. That happened so quickly, and I don't know if that's really a completely accurate representation of mainstream adoption, because we didn't have to go through the matching process. We're not having to look through different online catalogues of children and trying to find someone that we felt like we connected with. Like, we didn't do all of that. We still don't know what that part of the journey really looks like, and in many ways I'm really happy. I feel like God gave us Toyan knowing that Lavea was going to come along. It was just so much straightforward going through the mainstream adoption. We were confident it was absolutely going to happen, and it just did. Just moved through the process, everything ticked through quite nicely, and it was so much more delayed. People have to go listen back to that first one again and boost those numbers for that first episode even more. Just to hear just a bit of the story of that first adoption with Toyan and how slow some of that was. I think those are two sides of that were massively different. But as the one out of the two of us who was more concerned about adopting, about whether or not they would feel like my kids, that was my big thing, wasn't it? You were completely for it. I was the one that kind of had to be brought along in this journey with you. For both of them, they are utterly my children. Even though they've come through different forms of adoption, even though they are adopted, they are both my kids. And I will fight you if you say otherwise.
So don't say otherwise.
So don't say otherwise. That would be a really awkward podcast if my wife was allowed to debate. Say, well, actually, here's just a certificate. Someone else is the dad. Bye.
Nope, no surprises here. So another thing that's changed significantly since we started our adoption process, like 5.5 years ago? Goodness gracious, that's a long time. How do you feel about the changes that have occurred within the birth parent relationships and the move, I guess, towards more open adoptions? How has that made you feel?
Were they not moving towards open adoption when we did it? Has it gone more so since?
Okay.
That's a
fair question.
This is us talking.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's probably useful for everyone to hear too.
Yeah.
So when we started our adoption journey, they obviously, the biggest promotion of connection with birth family was through letterbox contact, which we know because we engage in it. But in the last 5.5 years, I don't really know when, but I went on training maybe within the last 1.5 to 2 years that the University of East Anglia produced, and they do lots of studies around adoption and all these things, and their biggest like new release of research was around promoting direct contact between siblings, between birth parents, between all that kind of array of the extended birth family. And I know when we started a conversation towards it, you, I guess, struggled a little bit about the thought of doing all the extended families contact and things like that. I'm just curious as to what your thinking is around that and the fact we are now moving from letterbox contact to more direct contact.
Yeah, we're open to moving towards direct contact once it's, what's the phrase? It's safe and meaningful.
It's now written into our adoption agreements.
I think I think in general it's a positive thing, as long as those two things are safeguarded. That whatever it is safe and it will be meaningful. One of those things is missing. It's not going to be helpful for the kids to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like honestly, I'm not massively impressed by letterbox contact. It's fine, but it feels like it doesn't particularly do much, and I think that's because of it's so distant. The kids are so young that.
Let me just interject. What do you want letterbox to do?
Well, that's not necessarily the right question though, because it's just what letterbox is. Like, it is indirect. I don't know if I wrote you any letters. Did I write you any letters? That'd be terrible if I didn't. Probably not.
What, when we were dating?
Or yeah. Or do you have any letters from any?
You didn't post them, but you wrote them and like gave them to me, I'm pretty sure.
Well, there you go. But like the letters we receive, the ones that we kind of really end up treasuring, tend to be more from the ones from people we've already got a connection with. The ones that we don't have connection with people tend to be the ones that don't really mean too much. And so the kids have never met these people that they've got these letters. I mean, that's not strictly true, obviously, but you know, in their living memory, they've not met these people. So it's kind of these letters that kind of just aren't interesting. So like letters in general aren't as interesting as whatever car or trains Toyin could be playing with, or whatever thing Lavea wants to run around with that day. And that's not to try to dismiss the contents or the contact itself, more trying to describe, I think, the struggle with letterbox. If you don't have a personal relationship already with the person that you're trying to write to, the letters kind of just become a bit like a school report. This has gone well, this has gone bad, this is a new thing. And then they write back saying, oh, that's great, this is new for me, this is what's gone. And there's no emotional connection there.
I feel like you can tell who writes the letters in our house. I put so much effort and thought and emotion into those letters.
You do, but it makes more sense from what they receive and what they will read, because they know their kids and they've got that connection with them because they're the adults. These kids are in their living memories and all that. Yeah. But it's just from this side, from the kids' point of view, because that's the direction that I care about the kids' birth parents. I care about birth parents in general, but right now, as a dad, my priority is our kids, and letterbox for them right now really doesn't mean anything. And maybe in the future it will do, but if they don't have that personal, just a memory, that they can think about of who that person was, then I don't think the letter's going to mean much. That's the reason why I think moving towards more open adoptions where contact does happen face to face with birth parents, where safe and meaningful, has a really massive potential to do a lot of good, because it means then things like letterbox, actually the person who's written that letter, and so that means more. And the person who's going to be reading it when they're old enough to really kind of help contribute a little bit more. Like, they will know who's on the other end reading it, and that means what they write is more meaningful. And that's what I'm trying to get across, I think, is what's missing at this point. I don't know if that's just an age thing for the kids, but I think it does apply now that
So essentially what you're saying is that direct contact would be more beneficial and child-centered for our children.
Yeah, as long as it's those two words again.
As long as it's
safe and meaningful.
That's fair.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that being a positive thing for them, taking away some mystery, taking away the space for them to fill in things with their imagination that may or may not be right.
Well, that was what the University of East Anglia essentially were saying. Like, lots of adoptees just make this figment of their imagination version of their birth parent. Even if they have the facts, they still imagine
And that's when they go hunting online, you know. I actually think I was on that training with you, and it's kind of scary with the age of internet what people can find out about people. Like we googled our names to find out, like neither of us come up. We clearly have not lived that interesting lives. I mean, pretty soon you'll Google your name clearly and it will come up with the same Bex Baker, podcaster,
extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. All right, toot your own horn. And
I don't know where you were going, so I had to fill the gap.
Interestingly enough, I was going to say the word extraordinaire, and then I didn't. Then you went for it.
Yeah, I mean,
You're just confident.
If one of us
know your worth.
In the upcoming year, I intend to share some resources of books and, well, predominantly books, only books actually, on Instagram. I'd recommend that I find really useful for talking about kids about adoptions and fostering, things that I would use if we were doing fostering, but also just to educate our kids around fostering as well. What are your favourite books that you have come across so far in your adoption journey that help you have conversations with our kids, engage others, maybe, perhaps? I don't know, that kind of. What resources would you recommend?
The first book easily is Dragon Loves Penguin.
I love that book too.
So good. So good. I don't know off the top of my head who the author was for that, but absolutely hats off.
I want to say it's Jodie someone, but I don't know.
Well done, Jodie someone. Like, absolutely astonishing book.
It's
so good. So understandable, and for the kids, and there's that extra level. I think as an adult, when you're reading something like that, you can kind of see where it's going. You can't rate that one highly enough. It's so good, so good. It's something that your kids will get, the adults around you will get really good, even to get your family members to read them to your kids, because then they get the story and they understand what's going on as well. A bit of that. It's so good, very worthwhile.
Yeah, it's definitely the type of book I will end up putting in all my family members' homes once they have kids. Like, just put that there in your bookshelf.
Yeah, just slip this one in here, that in your pocket. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Another one that recently I think may end up being really good, especially for Lavea. We talked a bit more about her being maybe a little bit more anxious, was the heartstrings one.
The invisible string.
The invisible string, connecting all our hearts so that wherever we go, we can still feel the tugs on our. That's just such a great story.
Yeah, about how love connects us, yeah.
Because when kids are feeling anxious about, let's put it in technical terms, they're feeling anxious about their attachment, they're wondering whether or not they're loved, and when they're going through difficult things like going to nursery, going to school, whatever, parents going to go to work, actually giving them a tool to be able to work through some of that anxiousness, some of that attachment worry, is just really important. What an amazing book, what an amazing tool to be able to say to a kid, because it's something that's really easy to put into practice. If your kids end up really resonating, if Lavea ends up, or even Toyan end up really resonating with it as a tool, it's kind of just self-reinforces, because you can do it. And right now they're not particularly fussed by it. But we've read the story to them a couple of times. I haven't. They're getting it. They're kind of interested in the idea, but it's okay. We're planting that seed, that idea now, and letting that be for when or if they need it later on. But that was a really good. That was a newer book that we got recently. It isn't a new book, it's a new one for us that I'm hoping that we will find really useful.
Cool. Well, I will get those ones up on our Instagram. So
absolutely should.
People can see what they include, and
if you just want Rebecca or myself just to read them out for a couple of podcasts, just so free audiobooks. Actually, if it's on Spotify, you already get free audiobooks, and if it's on Audible, you've definitely got audiobooks. You don't need to have audiobooks, do you?
No.
So get them up on Instagram, go through those ones in particular, but there's so many more.
Yeah, we'll get them up soon. I think that is kind of the end of the questions I had for you. Did you have any questions you'd like me to answer?
Out of all of the trainings that you've done, was there any particular good ones that you would recommend, or trainers that you would recommend?
Ooh, that's a good question. So,
thank you.
I can't remember the woman's name, but her first name's Carol, and she did our life story. She was quite good.
Yes.
And that was life story training is so good. That is about helping kids to explore their life story and why they're in care, like what's happened, all their background, all the stuff you're not allowed to share as an adopter or a foster carer. The bit of the kids' history that you don't share with anyone but them because it's their story to share, and that's what we're taught throughout our training. As adopters, you're taught continually, like, don't share the kids' stories, which is why here at Families Made Differently, we very much protect children's stories. So you'll never hear me ask, well, and I hope this is true, because this is my intention, is you'll never hear me ask an adopter, a foster carer, to be like, oh, so what happened to that child, or why was that child in your care, or none of that, because we really prioritize protecting children's stories. So that is our priority here at Families Made Differently. So that is why we don't go into children's stories, and we talk predominantly about why a foster carer or an adopter ended up in the place they're in, not why the child ended up in the place they're in, because honestly, that's none of our business. And
would you recommend it for that sort of training, or books about that for people to read that are outside of, or outside of the immediate
no, that would be for adopters or foster carers, I would say.
I was just wondering though, that the family around could well benefit from
life story training.
And this is a good question. Oh yeah, like, you know, grandparents sitting in and finding, or
you see,
even
those people also shouldn't, unless the child has shared their story, in which case the life story work is done. The grandparents and extended family shouldn't actually know the child's story.
Because I think this is a hard part for it, is that we obviously got tons of training and we continue to be able to get some, but for our families, there has been no training.
Yeah, so Sarah last month, so she would say go on the foundations course for that Home for Good and Safe Families run. She would say go on that even if you're extended family and stuff. So that, I've not been on that training, so I can't actually speak into that training specifically, but that's what she would say was a really good training for extended family outside of your adopters, your foster carers. I would say those people don't need to be on life story training.
Okay.
Because life story training is to enable you and give you tools and ways in which to share a child's life story. If the grandparents know the life story, that's because the child has then gone on to share their story with the grandparents or the aunts and uncles. They shouldn't be doing the life story work.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't know the kids' stories.
Okay.
And then I went on a really good changing minds, changing something, but that was the whole thing about direct contact, and East Anglia did that as a collection of online like seminars. They were really good. I don't know, I came across them. They weren't like sent to me from connected to our adoption journey. I'm just always looking to learn more, but if the University of East Anglia ever put stuff out, I would go to that training. Obviously look at the topic and be like, is this useful to me? But if it's interesting, I would do it.
Sounds good.
Because that is cutting edge research, that is. So go listen to what they have to say, because that'll be the new what's new on the block.
And maybe you can get Carol, what's her name, to come and talk at some point.
Carol, what's her name? Poor Carol from Life Story Training. Yeah, if any professionals in the Christian space want to come and share their little bit of training or what their hints and tips are for us adopters, foster carers, or kinship carers,
absolutely,
or supported lodgings hosts, then please get in touch. I was thinking, since you enjoyed the Jennifer interview, if there were foster care children, that would be an interesting take. So please, you get in touch too. I would love to hear from more foster carers. I have contacted a few, but they are playing hard to get right now. And
everyone has a story to share.
Yeah, everyone literally has a story to share.
And it's been really amazing hearing the stories that have been shared so far. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this, to hearing rather the stories that come up and are shared in the future. And I really hope people do listen to this and aren't thinking, oh, my story's not good enough, or it's ongoing and it's not finished yet, it's not a neat little bow, and or whatever it is holding people back from not sharing their story. I really, really hope that they decide that they will be okay sharing it, because they are incredible. The stories that have come out so far have been really incredible, and I know that they've been shaping people's lives and journey in adoption and fostering, and that's just so important, so powerful, and just really amazing. So I hope we hear more stories.
Yeah, and I feel like every story that we've heard is so unique to that family and that story. Like, none of them are the same. Even if it feels like similar situations, the story is always different, isn't it? And the person's take on the
every person is different, and so there is no one kind of recipe for how these stories play out.
So please do get in touch if you are in this space and you would like to share, because we would love to hear from you and we'd love to have your story. And as you've said, like, we don't need pretty bowed stories. We know that being in the world of vulnerable children is really difficult. Some days are really tough and they suck, and you're just like, how did I get to this place of just...
And actually, what would be really amazing to hear would be if someone was willing to share a story where actually, it's just been tough and hard and it's not gone well. I know, obviously being on the inside, that there's been at least a few of interviews where the names have all been different. It's been anonymous. Like, that would be amazing. So if that was, someone was willing to share, actually, here's a story of where it's gone really difficult and it's been hard, and that would be really powerful to hear how Jesus was still working in that, and just to say to people, you can do that anonymously. You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to use your real name.
Your story is so important. It would be amazing to hear it.
Yeah. We try not to shy away from the hard stuff, although naturally we're also advocates for it, so you kind of naturally gravitate towards the good stuff, don't you? But we do want to be real here.
Authentic.
Indeed. Please do get in touch. You know where to get in touch. I will have our email address in the description below, and you can contact us by sliding into our DMs on Instagram. Please do get in touch if you'd like to share your story here at Families Made Differently. Please make sure that you follow us on Instagram and turn on your notifications wherever you listen to your podcasts. Families Made Differently releases a new episode on the first Friday of each month at 9 a.m. Please comment on the podcast or slide into our DMs with your favourite bits, what inspired you, any questions you have, or if you too would like to be involved. We really appreciate your listening ears and continued support. This was Families Made Differently, the podcast designed to share stories from Christians in the UK whose lives and families have been shaped by fostering and adoption. So we have this really cute voice note that we recorded a little while ago, and I thought I'd just add it at the end of the episode as a treat for those who listen all the way to the end, but also just as a hint as to what our story is looking like and what direction it looks like it's going in now. So yeah, I thought I'd leave that here, and you can enjoy the absolute cuteness of this voice note. Let's just be clear, some of the facts and information in this is completely inaccurate. So do not take it as gospel, because it is the furthest from it in some ways. But it's just dead cute, so I thought I'd just add it as just a snippet from our kids to just finish this beautiful episode. So Toyan, tell me, how do you feel about if we have another baby?
Yes, 2 babies.
Is Lavea one of those 2 babies, or do you want 2 more babies?
2 more babies.
2 more babies?
Yeah.
Is Lavea a big girl?
What?
So do you want 2 more babies?
Yeah.
Is
2 cats in my room, 2 cats in the boys' room.
2 cats in your room and 2 cats in Lavea's room. Where are the babies gonna go?
In the top.
In the cot?
Yeah. 2 down the stairs.
2 cots down the stairs.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have
So-
2 babies in the boys' room. We need the top in the boys' room.
And Lavea's gonna move in here into the big bunk bed.
Yeah. The babies there sleep in the top.
The babies are gonna sleep in the cot, plural, yeah?
That.
Wow, okay. So 2 babies, and we're not talking about Lavea.
2 tops.
2 cots in Lavea's room, and Lavea's gonna sleep in Toyan's room.
Where's the have two cats in the room?
Okay, but that'll become the baby's room, won't it? And then Lavea will sleep in Toyan's room.
Well, hey,
And we'll get a big bunk bed.
hey, I want this two cats. Where I'll stroke the other one. Stroke the other one.
And you want 2 cats.
Yeah.
And you'll stroke one and Lavea will stroke one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where might scratch and cat might scratch the way back.
Oh, I think Lavea can be gentle. You can be gentle, can't you, Bubba?
Cats might scratch the way. He's very good.
Are you telling us how gentle you can be?
You can slow cats.
I just can't believe Toyan wants 2 babies.
I want to watch that one.
Okay, let's send this to Daddy then, shall we?